everyone, my name is Sheila and welcome to my channel. I am a small business owner selling handmade, mostly knit hats, accessories, and amigurumi. I have also designed a few patterns and they are available on my online store and on Ravelry. I sell my products in person at market events and also at the online store. And the links would be on the description below as well as my social media handles. Today we are doing a tutorial for my recent design, the Berry Picker Knit Gloves and Mittens. The first half of this tutorial will be for the full gloves version and then the full mittens version on the second half. Refer to the timestamps if you would like to jump or skip to a particular section. And I should also mention that this is an intermediate pattern and it is recommended that you are familiar with certain knitting skills. So please take note of that. Okay, so to start off, I have already finished the left hand of the full gloves. So we are working on the right glove and we are starting off with the cuff. To determine the length of the yarn that we will be needing for the long tail cast on, it is good to have a few inches here just to give it some margin before we start wrapping the yarn around the needle. In this case, since we need to cast on 40 stitches, we will wrap that 10 times the needle. So for this length, we have 10 stitches. And to simplify, we will just get that length times 4, just like this. And that will give us the approximate length that we need to start our long tail cast on. So we make our slip knot right here. So with our slip knot here, I usually put the yarn tail on the back. I have seen other knitters prepare it on the front, and this is just how I learned it. So let's start casting on. We have the slip knot on our needle, which will also be our first stitch. With our needle, we go under the loop here by the thumb, and then we pick up this other loop on the back and bring it through the first loop. So under that first loop, and we bring that second loop through the first loop. Let's do that again. Go under this loop and then pick up the other one and bring it through. So here we have 3 stitches, including the slip knot. Let's work and make that 40. All right, so we have 40 stitches here. And the next step would be to divide these stitches onto 4 needles. So that would be 10 stitches per needle. And whenever we join in the round, we have to be careful not to twist our stitches. So this is just how I prefer to do this. I slip 10 stitches to the first needle. And then I set it down so that way there is little chance of twisting the stitches. I take the second needle and then transfer or slip the next 10 stitches. And this pattern indicates stitch counts whenever there's an increase or decrease. So utilize that, and I encourage you to check your stitch count throughout your project. So that's 10 for the third needle. And then we just have to make sure that we have 10 on the last needle, and we do. All right, so we're just going to position that. And then at this point, we are going to position our stitches near the end of the needles that we're working with to avoid inconsistent gaps between the stitches. And with the fifth needle, we are going to knit the first stitch. So with a working yarn, which is this one, I wrap it around the fifth needle. And there is our first knit stitch. The next stitch is going to be a purl stitch. So that's our purl stitch. And then for the rest of the ribbed cuff, we are just going to alternate the knit and purl stitches. So for the pattern, you can actually customize it to however many rounds you like, depending on how long you want your cuff to be. But for this tutorial, we are doing 15 rounds to match the left-hand sample that we have. And we'll meet back here after the 15 rounds. All right, so we have our 15 rounds finished. And for the next round, we are doing increases. This pattern calls for a 4-stitch increase for this round. So we are going to add 1 stitch after every 10 stitches. And since this is a stockinette round, we're just doing all knit stitches all around. There's our first 10 stitches. So now we are doing an M1R or a make one right. So to do that, we need to find this top bar in between our stitches. We pick it up with our left needle coming from the back, and then we just knit it. We're just going to knit it. And to knit the stitch, you can just go straight like this. But if it is too tight for your needle, then what I do is to run my needle from the back to the front and go around like this. And then what this does is it adjusts the tightness of the loop so we can easily make our knit stitch. And that is our make one right. So we'll just continue knitting our next 10 stitches. Okay, so for our make one left or M1L, we need the top bar right here. And again, we are inserting our left needle, but this time coming from the front. And then we are going to knit through the back loop. And before we do that, so if you notice, if we knit through the front loop, it will create a hole. That's why we need to knit through the back loop. So that way the stitch will be twisted and it will not give us a hole. All right, so we just repeat that process. We knit the next 10, an increase M1R, and then knit another 10, and then an M1L increase. And we're going to be at the end of the round. All right, so now we have our 44 stitches, including the 4 increases that we made. And the next thing to do is to rearrange our stitches. This is the beginning of our round right here. So we are going to combine the stitches in the first and second needles into just one needle. So we'll have 22 stitches on this first needle. For the second needle, we need 6 stitches. And these 6 stitches will be for our thumb gusset. And the thumb gusset, this is where we're going to make our increases for the placement of our thumb. So there's the 6 stitches. For the third needle, we need 8. So we need 3 more to make this 8. All right, so if you're following along with our pattern, the first thing we do, purl the first 2 stitches, just like that. And then slip the third stitch purlwise, meaning this working yarn is on the front. And then now we put the yarn on the back so we can knit the next 2 stitches. Now we have 5 stitches so far, and the first round of the Eyelet Mock Cable rib stitch will always be a decrease round. So this stitch that we slipped earlier, right here, it's going to be the third stitch. We are going to take that and pass it over the 2 knit stitches. And that creates our PSSO, or the pass slipped stitch over. So now instead of 5 stitches, we have 4. Now let's do that again. 2 purl stitches, slip 1 purlwise, move the yarn to the back, and knit the next 2 stitches. And then the last step would be to slip, or to pass, the slipped stitch over the 2 knit stitches. Let's try that again. Purl 2, slip 1 purlwise, and then move the yarn to the back, and then knit 2 stitches. And now the slip stitch, we pass that over the 2 knit stitches. Last time. And then for the last 2 stitches, we just purl them. And there we go. So we just did the first round of the Eyelet Mock Cable. And so for the rest of the round, we are just going to do knit stitches. All right, so we are back to the beginning of our round. And for round 2 of our Eyelet Mock Cable, we are going to, again, purl the first 2. And then this is where the increase happens. We are going to knit the first, and then we are going to do a yarn over, and this will be our additional stitch. And then we knit the next stitch. So as you can see, we decreased our stitches earlier, so now we have 5 stitches again for this so far, for the first 5. Let's do that again. Purl 2, knit this one, yarn over, knit again, purl 2, knit the next one, yarn over, knit again, purl 2, knit, yarn over, knit again, and then purl the last 2 stitches. Again, for the remaining of the round, we just knit all the stitches. All right, round 3. Purl the first 2 stitches. And then knit the next 3. And we just alternate those. Purl 2, knit 3. And then the last 2 stitches you just purl. We just knit all the rest of the stitches, and then for the round 4 we do the same thing for this part, and then we'll meet back after that, since we are working the thumb gusset on the next round. All right, so we just finished that section for the 4th round of the Eyelet Mock Cable. Now we are working on the thumb gusset part, and this is going to be on the 2nd needle with the 6 stitches. So we knit the first 2 stitches, and then we are going to place a marker. This will mark the increases that we will be making for the thumb gusset. So after we put the marker in, let's make one right. And then we knit the next one. And then we do a make one left. And then now we are going to just knit the remaining stitches of the round. So we continue with the pattern and it will tell you how many more rounds you need to work for the thumb gusset. We will be working with the Eyelet Mock Cable and thumb gusset increase simultaneously and then stockinette for the rest of the stitches. And then we'll meet back here once we're ready to separate for the thumb. So we are now going to separate our thumb part from the main part of the glove. At this point, we just finished doing the round one of the Eyelet Mock Cable rib stitch, as you can see here. And now we are on the thumb part. So we knit the first 2 stitches and then we slip the marker. We knit the next 12 stitches. All right, so we remove this marker to take our strand of yarn, preferably in a different color so you can see it easier. And we are going to slip 12 stitches that are on the gusset of our thumb onto our strand of needle. So we remove this marker. Now that we have the 12 stitches for our thumb on a different strand of yarn, we are going to secure that. Just a loose knot will do. And for the rest of the round, we are going to knit all the stitches. So for this needle, you will have 6 stitches. Okay, so we did all knit stitches for the rest of our round. And for the front part, we did the round 2 of the Eyelet Mock Cable rib stitch. We are now back on the thumb gusset part. And here I would like to show you how we do the cast on top of this thumb gusset. So we knit the first 2 stitches, and for this gap here, in place of the thumb gusset, we are going to have 2 stitches right here in between. So we need to cast that on. And how I do it is I grab the working yarn and I twist this working yarn just like that. And then I hook it onto the needle and that creates a loop. So let's try that one more time. Twist the yarn and then put it onto the needle, and there you have the 2 cast on stitches. And then we keep knitting the rest of the stitches of the round. So at this point, we will proceed depending on the pattern that you're working on. It can be the gloves with the fingerless option or the mitten with the fingerless. Regardless, for both instances, we are going to work around to form the top part of our hands. So next up would be working on the gloves if you got that pattern, and I will show you how to work and separate for the fingers. So if you follow the pattern, it will tell you to purl two together. That first two purls, two stitches, and then you continue working the fourth round of the Eyelet Mock Cable, which is, so the first two stitches you purl together, and then you knit the three, and then you work as usual for this. And then for the last two stitches, you purl those together as well. So you did purl two together, this first and the last two stitches, the first two stitches and the last two stitches, and then you just work the Eyelet Mock Cable pattern in between. So we'll just knit the remaining stitches of the round and then we'll come back. All right, so we did knit the remaining stitches of the round, and now we are back at the beginning of your round. So if you are using a marker right here for the beginning of your round, let me show you. So you purl the first stitch and then take off your marker, since we are working that first round of the Eyelet Mock Cable. So take off your marker and then work as usual. You slip that stitch purlwise with a yarn in front, and then you knit the two stitches, and then you will pass this slipped stitch over just like that. And then if you want to put back your marker, you just put it back right here in between the first and those two. Right. With two stitches left, you will leave that unworked. At this point, we will begin with a pinky finger, and it will tell you that each finger will have two cast on stitches, and sometimes you also have to pick up the stitches from the other side of it depending on the finger that you're working on. So try to manage the stitches by adjusting the number of needles that you need. And for a better fit, since the number of rounds can be customized, I suggest that you measure the length of your finger from the base here up to around a quarter of an inch short of your finger, and then work your stockinette for that finger. We left 2 stitches unworked, and for this point we are going to set up for the pinky. So we keep these 2 stitches on this needle, and then we are going to slip the next 3 stitches onto this same needle. Okay, so this point we are going to grab the other strand of yarn that we have. This is a slightly different color, so I can still tell. And we are going to slip the next 30 stitches onto this strand of yarn. All right, so we just slipped 30 stitches onto that strand of yarn and secure it. And now we are left with 5 stitches on the back needle, and that is exactly what we need. So we are going to pick up where we left off, and that would be here. And we are going to knit these last 5, or the 5 stitches on the other needle. All right. Now again, this is where we're going to cast on 2 stitches to accommodate for the part here, this side here of your finger. So that's 2 cast on stitches, and then we are going to join it in the round, or join it with this part. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 stitches here and 5 stitches on the back needle. So you will have a total of 12 stitches, and I like rearranging my needles at this point. So I like having an even number on each needle. So we're gonna put 4 stitches here, and let's put another 4 stitches here, and that will leave me 4 stitches on the last needle right here. And now I can join them in the round for my pinky finger. So joining them in the round, you will need another needle, and you will knit that. So you will just knit for, I think it's 10 rounds according to the pattern. But like I said, if you need to work more rounds or less rounds according to your pinky size, that would totally be fine. So working on the cast on stitches right here, it can be a bit tight. Just work your way in there. And that would be our 2 cast-on stitches. And you will have looser stitches, but you will be able to fix those later once you're weaving in your ends. And just continue working on your stockinette for your pinky finger, depending on how long you want it to be. And then we'll meet back after that. After working 10 rounds, this is what we have. And I check by trying it on. And making sure that it fits me. So this is about how I stop with a stockinette and close off the finger by doing K2 together all around. So let's do that. You're going to knit all the stitches 2 at a time. Since we have 12 stitches earlier, we are now left with 6 stitches. And we're going to just cut our yarn. I gave it about a few inches, just enough for us to thread this tail into those 6 stitches. All right, so when you close it off, sometimes I find some of the stitches loose like that, and I don't like that. So I tighten them by going around. So as you can see here, if I pull this a little bit, that will help me tighten this one. So as you can see, this one is tightening a little bit right there. So now this last loop, this connects to this one. When I started threading the stitches with the yarn tail, so I just pull that, and now that looks so much better, I think. But if you don't have that issue, then you don't have to do anything. I just like doing that to make sure that knit 2 together is snug enough. And then I just thread it all the way around, just to make it more secure up to that last stitch. And then I take that hole there to thread it back inside. There's my needle. And what I like to do, so if you turn that inside out, I secure my yarn tail by going through some of the stitches. There's no right or wrong way to do this, just as long as you make sure that it will not create holes. You just repeat that process for all of the fingers. So for the ring finger, pattern says that you pick up the 5 stitches from the front or on the front from the strand of yarn. So that is what I did here. And once you've picked up those 5 stitches, you can take it off of the yarn, the strand. So now you have 5 stitches onto your needle, and then you will do the same thing on the back. And there you have the 5 needles on the back, or the 5 stitches on the back. All right, so same idea. We will be knitting these 5 stitches, cast on 2 stitches here, knit the 5 stitches on the back, and then for this part we will be picking up 2 stitches. Cast on 2 stitches, and now I would like to rearrange my stitches and needles. So let's put 4 stitches here, so I will need to transfer 4 onto another needle. Right there, and I am left with 3 stitches here. That includes the 2 cast on stitches, and I will start knitting the back stitches. So here I will move, let's see, let's just move 2 stitches. This will leave me with 6, and since I'm going to pick up 2 more here, this needle will have 4 stitches. So picking up 2 stitches, this is how I like to pick up stitches. So as you can see, these are the 2 stitches that we cast on earlier. This will be the first one, and this is the second one. So how I like to pick is by the bottom of that stitch. So right there, and then I will just knit that. And then the second, I will go to the base just like I did on the first one, and this is that. Make sure that you're not picking up any other strand. I think there's that. All right, so now you have two additional stitches that you picked from the opposite side. And now you just continue working on your stockinette. According to the pattern, the ring finger will have 17 rounds. Of course, you can customize it to however many you like. And then closing the ring finger, we will just do the same thing. Just K2 stitches together, knits 2 stitches together, and then same process for the middle finger and the thumb or the index finger. And then actually it's going to be the same process for the thumb. So I will see you back once we've done all the fingers, and when it's time to weave in our ends. All right, I will see you back in a minute. For weaving in the ends, let's pick something here in the middle where I can demonstrate for you how I cover up those small holes. So for this one, I would just usually put my hand inside and sew it from here. So we want to cover up this hole here, which is quite big, and then probably one here on the back, and the ends are going to help us cover those up. This one, I will just follow the stitching and pull it a bit. It is, and I mean, it depends on your preference, but as long as you don't get large holes, it should be okay. So I'm gonna go here and pull that there. So as you can see, we've pretty much closed it. Hello here. That would pull that. And then maybe here. And then I'll go back inside. Pull that knit needle. And there you go. As you can see, we have covered that one hole. So we will just continue in this manner until we are done with all of the ends that we need to weave in. And then we'll see you back here once we are done with our gloves. So moving on to the next part of our tutorial, this is actually the right hand of the mitten, and I have already finished the left hand right here. So the first 5 stitches here, we have the purl stitch. So working this round, we are going to start off with a K through the back loop, or a knit through the back loop. And then we are going to piece or purl 2 stitches together. And then we're going to purl 2. And now this will be the new beginning of the round. So at this point, we are going to rearrange our stitches per needle. So the first needle will have 8 stitches. So I'm just taking out the stitches that are excess for the 8 stitches that we need. So there's the 8 stitches for our first needle, and then the second needle should have 16. The third needle should have 2 stitches. And then the last needle should have 15. So I have worked one round after we rearranged the stitches. So now we are going to our mitten decrease. And now we are going to do our first decrease here. This will be the SSK. So slip 1 knitwise, slip another 1 knitwise, and then we are going to knit them together. And that is our SSK, or slip slip knit. And then for the other side, we are doing a K2 or knit 2 together. Like that. So this is where we're going to accumulate our decreases right here along this line up to the top part of our mitten. And we just work that all around. The pattern will tell you how many stitches you need in between those decreases, and then we'll go back after that next step, and we'll see how far we can go just with following the pattern. At this point, we worked around our mitten here, and we have decreased our number of stitches quite a bit. We are now down to 3 stitches for the first needle. And then at this point, we are going to decrease a little bit more. We only have, let's see, 10 stitches total to work with. And this is going to be, let's see, our last round for this top of the mitten part. So let me show you this. We are going to knit the first stitch, and then the next would be a slip knit, or an SSK. Since we only have 1 stitch left on this needle, we are going to work with the next stitch of the next needle right here. So what I do is I just put that stitch on there, and then I do the SSK. So slip, and then insert this left needle here, and then I knit those two together, just like that, and that's our SSK. And then we knit these 2 stitches together. It's just kind of tricky sometimes to work your way having, you know, needles sticking out, especially when you're working with a few number of stitches left. So there's our K2 together, knit 2 together. So now for this next needle, and as you have noticed, I just eliminated 1 needle. I just took it out. You can still work with 4 needles if you prefer, but it totally depends on how you work it. So we're going to knit these 2 stitches here, and for the next stitches we need, so for the next stitches we need an SSK and a K2 together. So let's work the SSK, slip, knit, and then I'll knit those. So for the last stitch, you need a K2 together, and you are only left with 1 stitch. So this is where you are going to grab this first stitch from the next round and just put it here on this needle, just so you have 2 stitches. And now you can knit 2 stitches together. And there you go. So now I am left with 6 stitches, and that is our final number of stitches for this. What I like to do is to not just secure it right away. If you can see, I have sort of looser stitches here that I want to tighten a little bit. So how I do that is, this is our first stitch. So I tighten this, and this will automatically pull on the last round here. So I tighten this one, and then the next one. So if you pull on that, it will tighten that first stitch. Same thing here. Just be very careful though, because you don't want to go in between the fibers of your yarn. It can mess things up. Mainly I just use the needles to get in the stitch, but I pull it with my fingers so I pull it evenly like that. And now we are on our last stitch here. Just like that. And it is much neater. After the last stitch, that would be this thread here, or where this end connects to, and then that will just give it a tug like that. And as you can see, the stitches are a bit more clean. And now what I do is run through those stitches, or however you want to secure the end, but I run through the stitches here once, and then I bring this back inside, and by doing that I just put my hand in there so I can catch the needle inside. So I bring it back there towards the center, and I catch the needle with my hand inside the mitten and just pull it like that. So there's our top, and I just go inside out, and as you can see how I pulled it inside. Now you just weave the ends in there somewhere, however you prefer to weave your ends, and that should work. And then for the rest of the mitten, just follow the thumb part on the pattern. And I did show you how I managed to pick up the stitches for the thumb part earlier. So just follow that until you are done with the mittens, and you will end up with the right hand that is the matching for this one. Here are our finished mittens.